Hello and welcome to the Brand Odyssey podcast. I'm Kylie.
And I'm Miranda, and we are two designers from brand agency 3 Blocks Left. We're here to take you on an exploration of what goes right and what goes really wrong in design, branding, and the creative universe.
So hop in, pop on your seatbelts because we are going on a brand odyssey.
Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Miranda.
So I have a story for you today. It's going to be The Break, and it's where a well-loved worldwide company with an ironclad brand strategy had, I guess, what you could call a bit of a whoopsie in the brand extension department.
Okay, I look forward to hearing about it. So my make is something that I feel a little controversial putting this week as my make, and I had to dig deep. And I do feel in some way I am being a traitor to my profession, but I'm going to move forward with it. So I'll give you some clues. In 2010, a Twitter employee shared that the site's two most reliable sources of complaints are about airlines and this thing.
Politicians.
No, but good guess. Okay,
another 2010. So
yes.
I'm just going to get my brain into the era. Yeah.
So another clue is this has been declared to be the Justin Bieber of fonts.
Papyrus.
No, but you're close.
It's Comic Sans then.
Yeah. Well done. So yes, the mighty Comic Sans.
A make. Yeah, I think that's not just controversial to designers, just people around the world. It's not seen as a win for creativity.
It's not, but I am going to turn things around for you. I did actually start this as a break, researching it, but as I came to spend some quality time with Comic Sans, I got turned around by his charm.
Well, I like to keep an open mind on
do
things
you, Miranda?
in life. I mean, you obviously don't think I do. I would say I'm an open-minded free spirit, especially when it comes... Would you call? I'm not a rigid designer.
No, you're very.
I can be fast and loose.
Yeah, you can be. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not going to say no to Comic Sans because of years and years of distaste,
entrenched bias.
Yeah.
So love to hate it, but like all things we love to hate, Crocs, Kardashians, and dad jokes. Is there a time and place for them?
No,
I think you. No, hard no. I think you will find through my investigative journalism that the answer is yes. In the spirit of things, I've typed my notes up in Comic Sans, so I'm literally immersing myself in the makeness of this make. And as I come to you live, I am reading in Comic Sans. And you know what? I don't hate it.
So it's largely illegible.
No, it's not. It's actually not.
I promise I won't be hating on Comic Sans this hard by the end.
By the end of this, you're going to be loving it. So look, I will admit that it took a little bit of getting used to, but in this moment and in this niche environment, I said it, I didn't hate using Comic Sans.
I mean, I can see how it is actually, as far as handwriting font goes, there is legibility to it.
So we're going to go into that. So hold on to your hat. To start with a little history for our little Comic Sans, he was thrust into the world in October 1994. I don't know why he's a he, but I feel like he is. He's like a cheeky little boy, but he's turning 30 this year.
Oh, so that's
a milestone birthday coming up in October. So that's something to celebrate.
Well, I feel like your 30s are kind of where you've settled into yourself. You know yourself. You're more confident. So maybe that's where Comic Sans is in 2024.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, so I wouldn't necessarily say that about myself. But for most people.
Still waiting.
So his creator is Vincent Conner, and at the time Vincent was a designer for Microsoft, and they were launching a new program called Microsoft Bob. It was aimed at computer novices and teaching them how to use computers, especially children. Also, you've got to remember in 1994, desktop publishing wasn't widely available. Not everyone had their own personal computer, so a lot of people didn't know how to use computers.
What did we do? Did we write things on it by hand? Like, what were we doing in 1994? Get by.
We were handwriting things out and went to libraries. We had computers at work, and we certainly didn't all have our own computers. It was
such an analog time.
Yeah. So it was designed to have a more accessible, user-friendly interface, and included in this program. I mean, there's lots of names. I probably should have cut them out, but Microsoft Bob is the program. In Microsoft Bob was a little dog called Rover. He's a little yellow cartoon dog, and he sat in the corner of your screen and spoke to you via speech bubbles. And the font that was originally meant to characterize Rover in these speech bubbles was Times New Roman. But Daddy Vincent Kinnair was like, no way. Dogs don't talk in Times New Roman.
Absolutely not.
I mean, my dog might, Lupe, but...
Yeah, Lupe talks in Times New Roman.
He decided the program needed a new font, but Microsoft Bob was going live in a few days. So he took inspiration from comic books and graphic novels, and over the course of 3 days, he created the mighty Comic Sans.
I mean, that's pretty amazing to create any font, but I think particularly like a handwritten font would be harder. You know, a geometric font, you could just think of the lines of all letter shapes. But yeah, to create something that was legible and handwritten, and I love that little like comic book reference because, yeah, you can see how it's connected to that. In 3 days, that's actually, I think that's a big feat for Vincent.
You're cracking.
It didn't take long. I told you, I come around easily. My arm can be twisted.
Your rubber arms. Very sadly, it didn't actually get used for Rover.
I mean, I'm a bit outraged by that.
But, I mean, you don't need to feel sorry for Comic Sans because he did just fine. He was then included in the release of Microsoft 95, which was the first operating system to really hit big around the world. And this right here is the pivotal arc of the hero's journey for our dear Comic Sans. I'm going to pause here on the story of Comic Sans, his hero's journey. I just want to talk about, you know, is it a terrible font? I will say, after spending some time, I don't think it's that bad. Like,
how much time, Kylie?
A fair amount, actually. You know, I've been editing this story back and forth for a while, so yeah.
I'm like, should we be concerned that Comic Sans going to be like trickled into our brand presentations now? The new 3 box left font?
I'm not saying no, but Lord knows I've seen worse in the depths of DeFont, and I'd say you'd have to 100%. Agree with that.
There's some wild things going on, like themed fonts, like Halloween, where it's like they try and work in a little pumpkin into all the letters or a ghost. Yeah, that's just one example.
So the typographic fundamentals of Comic Sans are admittedly not great. So poor letter fit, the kerning is all over the shop. And, you know, you mentioned before that it was a handwriting font, but it's actually not classified as a handwriting font. It nearly is, but, you know, I read a lot about it falling squarely in the uncanny valley aesthetic.
Is that a font aesthetic?
So no, it's bigger than that. It's when something is really close to being human, but it isn't quite human. And so instead of drawing us in with the familiarity, it actually repulses us. There's something really jarring for us. So
creepy Comic Sans.
Creepy Comic Sans, creepy dolls.
Yeah, they are creepy. That's fair.
AI generated imagery, you know, I mean, obviously
that's the worst of it. No, but it is so strange, isn't it? Because it's like the AI generated imagery, it's so close. And then you look at it and you're like, is it real? Isn't it real? I mean, I think with all the AI stuff, that's like layered with the strangeness of it going as far as it has now as well. That adds another ick. But yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Like creepy kind of like human robotic stuff.
Yes, exactly. So uncanny valley, you don't want to be in that valley with the robot dolls.
No, I'll pass on that, and Comic Sans as well. It's been lumped in. So I mean, I feel like now I know what it is. I'm like, it's a little harsh, like because it kind of is just like a funny blobby font.
Look at you sticking up for Comic Sans.
Leave Comic Sans alone.
Despite the shortcomings of the font itself, really the story of Comic Sans is not that of a terrible font, but rather of a fairly average font used incorrectly on a massive scale. So
it's the people who stuffed it, not Vincent, not Comic Sans.
Comic Sans doesn't disappoint people.
People disappoint people.
People disappoint people. Windows 95 changed the way we access desktop publishing with personal home computers now loaded up with our friendly little mate. It becomes the obvious choice for anyone wanting to make a sign or communicate something with a bit of flair or personality.
And they just didn't have time for some word art. They're like, I've got to get this done. I can't 3D render bake sale, so I'm going to use Comic Sans.
Yeah, Word Art was strictly for
School projects.
high school projects, for future graphic designers who were really committed to the bit.
I dabbled.
Of course you did. So, you click that little menu, you got Times, you got Calibri, you've got Verdana, straight to Comic Sans. Show your personality off.
If you want to be fun, you didn't have really another option, I don't think,
No.
except for Papyrus, which is largely Egyptian.
This is how Comic Sans becomes so infamous for its use and, most importantly, for its overuse and misuse, particularly in serious circumstances. Some wonderful examples of this are Comic Sans on gravestones, on funeral receipts, bone marrow transport clinics, sex offenders registration offices, domestic violence campaigns, and there's even a World War II memorial on which the names of Jewish, Allied, and German military deaths were engraved alongside each other in Comic Sans.
Yikes, what a list. I'm not really sure. Out of those, I don't know which one of those is the worst one. It's just all very highly inappropriate.
Yeah. I feel there's something about the engraving of it that I feel quite offended by, like on the gravestones or the memorial, but also the sex offenders registration office. We probably don't need flair for that.
I don't know how that got out into the world. Like, I don't know where the decision makers were when this got printed. Like, that just makes
Jenny from reception needed to put some directions up and she chose Comic Sans.
Bizarre.
So going back to Daddy Vincent Canet in his response to the backlash, you can see him traverse a lot of emotions. He's quoted as saying, "I made the best font in the world. Comic Sans does what it was commissioned to do. It's loved by kids, mums and dads, so it did its job very well. It matched the brief. It's like they're comparing a kid's drawing to Picasso or the Sistine Chapel when they're not in the same category."
I mean, that's very valid. And I feel like, he's got on his emotional arc. It's like he's in the anger stage when he typed that out.
Well,
probably in Comic Sans.
He is a bit defensive, but
stage.
I really liked this quote from him, a bit more in on the joke. So he says, "This is the best joke I've ever told. If you love Comic Sans, you don't know much about typography. And if you hate Comic Sans, you need a new hobby."
I mean, that's also fair. But also I feel sorry for Vincent. Like, he didn't want this. He didn't ask for this notoriety.
I mean, who could predict that 3 days and a font could change your life? And
I mean, that's kind of a scary thought. Like, you never know what might happen tomorrow. And as a creative, we're putting things out in the world all the time. Imagine, like, if unknowingly, just tomorrow you do something that is like changes the course of history in your life. Like, make Comic Sans.
So I've just had a little death spiral on this podcast. I'm like, what if we go viral and say something really stupid? We change the course of human history. Unlikely.
Vincent is a good lesson to us.
So I wanted to also dial back to the absolute shit talking of Comic Sans that was occurring in mainly the 2010s, like late 2000s, early 2010s. Do you remember this?
I mean, I just sort of remember, like, even in high school, there was like a general sort of joke. That's what I mean. It's like extended people who were designers or creatives. Like, it was a general joke not to use Comic Sans. And if you did use Comic Sans, you kind of had done the wrong thing. So yeah, that was a general vibe.
Well, I feel like it really dialed up. I remember it well, and I'm not sure why. I guess just in the design community, but I remember there was a video game called Kill Comic Sans. There was a website and like manifesto dedicated to its banishment across the internet. There was Kill Comic Sans merch. Like, it was a real cultural moment and was in reaction to its overuse of the 90s and the early 2000s.
It's so funny that you were saying there's like Kill Comic Sans merch, because I've actually seen Messina Ice Cream, I'm pretty sure, do their T-shirts in Comic Sans now. So it's like that whole thing. Yeah, because now it's kind of, we're over the shock of it existing and having no other options. And so now it's kind of like novelty and kitsch, maybe, that, how things do full circle.
Absolutely. That is 100%, where we are now.
But yeah, crazy that people cared that much, but
That
I think that's like
much.
how the internet works as well. Part of it is, it's a little bit the trolling factor, but it's almost like community building around something. Even a font is what is uniting a group of people. So there was a community of people who could hate Comic Sans together.
Yeah, and it was kind of like funny and fun and
Light-hearted trolling.
exactly. So the tide has been turning for little old Comic Sans, as you mentioned. I didn't know about Messina, so that really underlines the point beautifully. So even the designer who had that decades-long website and manifesto, his name is Dave Combs. He renamed his movement to be Use Comic Sans in 2019, saying it's gotten so bad that it's almost cool again.
Well, that's what it's done. But I like also that this guy has dedicated his spare time to his love-hate relationship with Comic Sans through his whole life.
Designer Corey Holmes says, quote, most of the designers who mock Comic Sans don't seem to understand that the person using it is not necessarily displaying poor taste, but rather trying to communicate at a rudimentary level with the tools available to them. Comic Sans is proof positive that design works. The public gets it and understands that type means more than just words. And I think that speaks really well to the point that people want to be engaged in expressing themselves through typography and that we're valid in our career choices, Miranda.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the intellectualization of Comic Sans, that he's made it highbrow.
Exactly. I'm nearly at the end, and I think at this point I would like to lay down my conclusion that we reframe Comic Sans not as a blight on design and typography, but as a font that was made for a very specific reason and that appealed to a huge amount of people during one of the biggest moments in design history, which is the democratization of publishing, when design essentially came to the masses, because before then, graphic design and access to typography was strictly for printers and graphic designers. So it remains as a relic of this part of the revolution. Today, Comic Sans is now allegedly on 99% of Windows computers and 91% of Macs.
Yeah, and I would say if everyone loves it, then it's not bad. There's a reason everyone loves it. Because if 91% of Mac users, notably less than Windows, which aligns with the brand, I mean, that means that a lot of people do want to keep using Comic Sans and have wanted to, which means it must be a good font. You've won me over, Kylie. It's a make.
Well, I'm glad. To finish, I wanted to read this excerpt from a piece written by Mike Lachey called I'm Comic Sans Asshole. I won't read all of it. It's well worth looking up if you're interested, but enjoy. Ahem. Listen up. I know the shit you've been saying behind my back. You think I'm stupid. You think I'm immature. You think I'm a malformed, pathetic excuse for a font. Well, think again, nerdhole, because I'm Comic Sans and I'm the best thing to happen to typography since Johannes fucking Gutenberg. People love me. Why? Because I'm fun. I'm the life of the party. I bring levity to any situation. Need to soften the blow of a harsh message about restroom etiquette? Slam. There I am. Need to spice up the directions to your graduation party? Wham. There I am again. When people need to kick back, have fun and party, I will be there. Unlike your pathetic fonts, while Gotham is at the science fair, I'm banging the prom queen behind the woodshop. While Universe is refilling his allergy prescriptions, I'm racing my tricked out nitrous-laden Honda Civic against Tokyo gangsters who'll kill me if I don't cross the finish line first. It doesn't even matter what you think. You know why, Jagoff? Because I'm famous. I'm on every major operating system since Microsoft fucking Bob. I'm in your signs. I'm in your browsers. I'm in your instant messengers. I'm not just a font. I'm a force of motherfucking nature. And I will not rest until every uptight armchair typographer cockhat like you is surrounded by my lovable, comic book-inspired, sans serif badassery. Enough of this bullshit. I'm going to go get hammered with papyrus.
Oh, it's so good. So who was that? Sorry, just so people can find it. Who said that?
Mike Lachey. Lacher.
I feel like Mike and Vincent have a WhatsApp channels that they just...
They should. If they don't, they should.
They need to get connected.
Yeah.
Well, that's the new Comic Sans manifesto for sure.
Absolutely. All right. What have you got for me, Miranda?
Okay, so as I said up front, my break this week is from a company who, when it comes to their marketing efforts, they usually only get it right. They're a bit of a benchmark and also one of the biggest, most famous brands in the world. They're a true leader of their industry, which is front and foremost athletic footwear. Can you guess who it is?
Nike.
It is. I mean, I think you only had the option of Nike and Adidas.
Nike and Adidas. So
Reebok. But
yeah, how can I forget Reebok? I'm a Reebok girly for sure.
Yeah, I think I actually don't own any of the. I have Asics for running. I'm not a sneaker person though.
I love sneakers.
Reebok has got that retro sort of feel to it, which I think I like as well. But Nike, I think, probably are the leaders when it comes to those big names.
I'm also going to say that there was a pregnant pause there because I wanted to say it a lot quicker, but I freaked out whether it's Nike or Nike.
It's Nike.
It's Nike.
I mean, you can say whatever, I think. I'm not tomato.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But for the purpose of this podcast, we can stay with Nike.
I'll transition to Nike.
Oh, did you say Nike?
I said Nike, yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay. Oh, so I do care. We can't be at cross purposes.
It's okay. I'm happy to relent. I'm pretty sure you're right. I feel like I've had this conversation before, maybe with you.
Tuna. Doesn't matter. So anyway, I feel like Nike, they're kind of a bit of a benchmark brand. You know, I feel like you can throw around examples of their marketing and branding for best case scenarios and, you know, thinking about them big picture, like their tagline alone, it's iconic. So obviously everyone knows it. It's just do it. And that probably lands on the top spot of all-time most memorable taglines. What do you think makes a good tagline?
Well, I mean, the fact that it's 3 words.
But I mean, it could be athletic premium footwear. That's 3 words.
I think a good tagline is about the essence of a brand.
It is. It captures a feeling, doesn't it?
It's not a description or a mission statement. It's the energy or the essence of the brand.
I think as well, just do it. It's actionable and also colloquial. So there's an element of it being like, it's finger licking good is another example where it's
something that you would say, like I probably wouldn't say finger licking good.
It's not every day.
Like
we're dropping finger licking good, but I mean, the fact that they have the little apostrophe.
Say it one more time.
Yeah, finger licking good. But they have the little apostrophe instead of the G. You know, it's just sort of like it's common language. I mean, that makes sense for KFC as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just interesting to me. I'm like, oh, I wonder what it is. There's a million tagline out there, but there's some that have crossed over from tagline into culture. And Nike's obviously did that very, very effectively. And then also their logo, which is, I mean, one of the most recognizable, simple, timeless. They'll never have to change it. They never have to touch it. It's the swoosh, so it has its own name, and you can see the swoosh without seeing the word Nike, and you know what the brand is, which is really what any big corporation like that would be wanting to achieve, I guess, like Apple as well.
And you know that story about that swoosh, the girl who they got to do it did it for like $30 or something insane.
No,
like that.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you?
So there was no serious refinement of angles.
No, I mean, look, I'm sure in the years that have followed and its huge success and iconic nature, there has certainly been some refinements over the years. But yeah, the initial logo was done for like $30 or something like that. And
I mean, what a fluke.
I'm going to fact check this and we may just cut this whole thing. Anyway, keep going.
So obviously I'm here to do the break. And
Okay, I've got it.
Okay.
So, yeah, $35. Nike paid designer Caroline Davidson $35 for its swoosh logo. She was also given a gold ring and shares in the company years later.
A gold ring?
I don't know.
Give me the shares.
Yeah.
Stuff the ring. Anyway, I'm not here to sing their praises today. We're here to take down the big guys. And, of course, even the biggest, most polished companies have their moments where they stumble along the way. But I found this particular example of a brand extension gone wrong quite interesting, because what annoyed the people wasn't their honourable efforts to go green with some eco-friendly shoes. They were angry because the shoe was really, really not very cool at all. So they called the new line of shoes the Considered range. But I think this example of what the internet renamed it can kind of paint a vivid picture. So the Considered range was Nike's proposal, but the internet had other ideas and they renamed the shoe the Air Hobbit. And I'll just share it with you now.
Wow, I was not expecting that.
Yes. So
Oh
I
my
guess,
god, what were they thinking?
yes, it's not very Nike, is it?
It looks like something children make at Steiner schools. It's that's
Oh.
really, really, really bad.
Yeah, so I'll paint a more vivid picture for people. Think earthy colours, hemp fibres. I did read someone describe it as forest dwelling styling.
Yes.
So it's kind of like
What did you say that the internet called it?
Air Hobbit.
It's a very Air Hobbit.
Yeah, they're very sort of like clunky and they kind of like lift up at the top a bit cloggy, but they mix very much that mountaineering style with hobbits.
It
And
looks like they have made this, woven this
for Lord of
out
the
of
Rings.
yeah, for Lord of the Rings. I thought it was going to be like just more like an earthy toned fly knit, but no, this is really weird and bad.
It's definitely like a comfort over style situation,
But
but
isn't it a hiking shoe?
yeah, it's a hiking shoe. But I think that's probably one of the problems as well. And that was a sort of another jump for them, is they're not predominantly in that's like you got your Merrells and your Tevas and your Gore-Tex for that.
Well, look at you just roll out all the hiking gear names.
I did used to produce Mountain Designs. RIP don't exist anymore. I did used to produce their quarterly catalogue. So
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
yeah, I used to depatch a lot of shoes. So
Right. Okay. You've got a long history with shoes.
I do. Yeah, I worked in shoe stores. I would say that I probably got more into the Nine West shoes than I did the Merrells. But Tevas have become cool now.
I've literally never heard that word before.
You've never heard of Teva?
No.
Okay, well, they're a sandal and they've got a black back and they've got that little triangle to connect. Anyway, they're always a hiking comfort
Teva.
shoe, but now the celebrities got onto them and they're popular with celebrities as well. And
oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I think it was like normcore movement where people decided,
yeah.
the uglier the shoe, the cooler it was. But no one would feel that way towards the Air Hobbit. It belongs in no category. And
it belongs in Hobbit, forest dwelling, Steiner school category.
Yeah, it's very niche. Kind of like this podcast. Anyway,
Hey.
I also love the tiny Nike tick logo embossed on the side. It kind of looks like it doesn't want to be there. It's like kind of floating off. It's like, I don't belong on this strange looking mountain boot.
It does.
It's edging off the side of the boot.
It's like, I'm sorry. I'm going to go now.
Yeah. What have you done?
But
yeah,
this is not for me.
This is not for me. Put me on a fly net. But yeah, as far as the product itself, obviously it's a fail, but I think the bigger fail, and to pull it back into branding, is their understanding their audience perception of them. And it's not to say that Nike can't go green. They should definitely be green, and I think we expect that from them, but they can do that without changing the essence of their brand.
Their audience are going to be about performance and about aesthetic. So it just seems like it's a little bit of a clumsy or chaotic attempt at jumping on the sustainability bandwagon, and maybe they just didn't think it through as much as they usually would. Says me, sitting in my little studio in Bondi.
Just like bringing down Nike.
Yeah.
With their 200-person marketing team.
Yeah.
That's probably also a good point. And I should probably share this up front, to be fair to them, that it was 2005 that the Air Hobbit entered our world. And, that's kind of before big brands included environmental and social impact into their brand strategies. It was before the for purpose movement even had started. We really only just had the Body Shop doing that in 2005, I think. Would I be right?
Definitely. Yeah, I remember I did some work with WWF in 2005 and they had a lot of trouble getting traction because people weren't engaged in that messaging.
Yeah, and now it's basically mandatory. I would say as well, like Nike, I keep forgetting that this is a break, but it's just so easy to slip back into why they're great, because in a way, maybe they have been a bit of a leader in their sustainability efforts. And I know in 2019, they announced a move to zero carbon and zero waste future. So that was to power and operate facilities with 100% renewable energy and diverting 99% of footwear from landfills. And there was a few more on that list as well. So they're not all smoke and mirrors when it comes to being a sustainable company. They're actually pretty good. It's just the Air Hobbit, if that was the start.
In 2005, it was a different world. Maybe we were still kind of caught up in this idea that anything eco needs to be made out of hessian and look like it was woven together by forest fairies.
Which is what the Air Hobbit was. A little boot for fairies and Lord of the Rings extras.
Yes, it's very Lord of the Rings aesthetic.
That's funny that Nike did make this mistake. And even though it is 2005, because, they're such a mega corporation and so much of their success has been how closely they understand their customer. And understanding their customer is basically the essence of their brand, and being consistent with that. They have been able to move into new product and consumer segments over time really well. It also shows how easy it is for a company, and even one as big as Nike, to get caught up in a trend or style that doesn't really align with who they are. And in this case, it was like you said, it was like, let's make it rough textures and it's green, so it has to look green, but we actually want them to look innovative and fast.
Even Nike can't get it right every time.
This is basically also why I did that. It was just to make us feel better that the best in class still make mistakes. We don't want to punch down, we're punching up.
So how long did the Air Hobbit grace our sartorial choices?
Well, they were very quick at mopping up the mistake and basically discontinued the shoe after a year. I think sometimes, even in 2005, the internet backlash can, rewind a company's choices pretty quickly if they're like, okay, this is not landing. The public voice is loud enough to say, let's just get it off the shelves, which they did. And Laurie Vogel, who oversees Nike's sustainability efforts, said, we want to do more and say less. And their next attempt at a green shoe did this. It was designed like a jigsaw to reduce waste. So that, innovative. And their Flyknit fabric, I didn't know this, but is actually made by repurposing plastic water bottles.
Ah, so that's the innovation we want from Nike.
Yeah, exactly. And then the shoe looks like a Nike shoe. So I also found a quote from analyst Sam Prosser on the issue, which I love. And he said, it has to be fabulous, not just green. So rather than changing their brand into an eco-warrior, they did green, but they made it Nike, which is high performance, innovative and powerful. So they're back to being genius. But also I want to remember that this is a break. So Air Hobbits, we'll never forget. You know what you're getting for Christmas. I'm going to go into the depths of eBay.
Yeah, I bet there's a few Air Hobbits floating around the internet.
I mean, you used to like hiking. You still dabbling?
No, I can't say that that's true.
If you did go hiking.
Would I wear an Air Hobbit?
Would you wear an Air Hobbit? Yeah.
No, I would not.
So actually, you were saying you didn't really know Tiva and Meryl. What were you wearing on your hikes?
My Reeboks.
Oh, okay. I don't hike anymore either, but when I did dip my toe in it, I'd often wear Havaianas. I wore Havaianas like everywhere.
As a massive nerd as a child, I had to wear orthotics, so I'm very aware of my foot health.
I think my peak is I did a 10K hike in the South Island of New Zealand in Ballet Flats. Someone should have hit me up with some Air Hobbits because I do remember that they were like getting water in them. It was like squelching.
Did you mean to do such a thing?
No. We were on holiday in New Zealand and we kind of had spent maybe about 6 of the 7 days just hitting up the pub and having a beer and a nice hearty lunch. And I think on this last day, we saw the pub and then we saw this trail and I was outvoted and it was decided that we would just check out some nature instead. And this turned into an accidental 10K hike.
Wow.
We didn't get lost, but we traversed grounds we didn't know we were going to. Ballet Flats.
Are you any better now or you just cut out hiking from your repertoire altogether?
I would say it's largely cut out, but, I don't mind. I like walking. Whether it's a Westfield or a mountain, I'm up for it.
In Havaianas still?
In Air Hobbits.
Well, thank you, Miranda. That has been enlightening. Good to see that not even Nike can get it right every single time.
It makes us feel a little better.
Exactly. We're all human. All right. See you next time.
Bye.
And so ends another expedition into the lands of brands and design. We hope you loved it as much as we love creating it. If you did, we would love you to follow us so you never miss an episode and to help other people find us.
If you're interested in learning more about creating brands, we have a free brand strategy workbook you can download from our website, 3blocksleft.com.au.
Until next time, stay on the Odyssey, brave creatives. Bye.